how do you practice? That's the challenge, isn't it? So what I'm wanting to do today in this video is kind of walk you through some different things that I've learned along the way in regard to some tools to help you practice better and what not to do. So let's start with what not to do. The first thing and the most important thing is don't just play it from beginning to end multiple times. That's not going to help you learn the piece. Well, it will help you learn the piece just with mistakes and those spots where you're unsure. So how in the world do you do it? Well, step one, and most importantly, is go slow, because that's a very, very important thing. You're building up hand-eye coordination, and so that's the thing that you're wanting to do. So for example, I've got a piece here that I'm going to kind of walk us through a little bit. It's a piano arrangement of Edward Elgar's Enigma Variations. It's the Nimrod variation, which is a beautiful piece of music. I could listen to it and know how it's supposed to sound, but my fingers have never played it. They have. I've just not done it for a while. But it's adagio, which means it's a quarter note equals 52, which is already very, very slow, which is awesome, right? So if I'm playing it, and I played the wrong note, right? And I wasn't quite sure of what I was doing. So that's step one, is going slow, right? Well, even if I'm going slow, right? So I've paused. I haven't kept my steady beat, even though I'm slow. So one of the best things to do, even before you're working on both hands together, is take right hand by itself, left hand by itself. Well, I'm going to start with the left hand here because there's some spots that come up right off the bat, right? So you've got right there. In the third measure, you've got that grace note C to C, right? So if I'm moving back and forth here with my hands, you're going to see, right? I have to practice that leap, because if I'm doing it with both hands together, let me start right there at that measure. Now, that time was good, but what happens if I'm practicing it and I don't quite get there? That's where working on each hand slowly by itself is really, 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 really important. Then it's, as you're going along, noticing where those trouble spots are and working on them. So if that's one of my trouble spots right there in the third measure, right? See what happened? I hit the A instead of the G, right? So what I'm wanting to do here is really slow it down. Okay, and just focus on that measure. If that's the trouble spot, focus in on that particular measure. And then back up a little bit, like say the measure before, just to build some context into that. A couple things happen when students are learning a piece of music. There's going to be those spots where they're not 100% sure. So the tempo will slow down. They'll get very hesitant, and those hesitations get learned. That's not what we're going for when we're wanting to play a piece musically. We want it to have this flow and this beauty to it. This piece specifically has this gorgeous quality to it that's just very smooth and flowing. So as you're doing that, you want to build in that steady beat and that confidence. So really isolating and working on those things helps so much. Now, another tool that I've learned is to go to the end and practice backward. This is something that I think can be a huge, huge help, because one of the things that happens when we're practicing and learning a song is we go at the beginning, because that's where we're supposed to start. That's where music usually begins. And we go along until we have a trouble spot, and then we start back over again. So we get very, very good at everything up to that treble spot. And then we'll maybe work on that treble spot and keep going. The end doesn't always get the most attention. And if we look here, specifically, I'm going to focus in on the last 4 measures because you notice dynamically right off the bat, you're going from a fortissimo, very loud, to within the course of 4 beats down to pianissimo, very soft. And so you have to have that confidence in your playing so that it's not, hey, I'm banging on the keys, right? And then, oh, now I'm really quiet because I didn't know what I was doing. You want that control so you're playing it excellently and musically. And if you notice, again, if we're taking apart things, looking at your left hand, you've got some busy stuff going on here. Left hand's got this big lead. Now the nice part of this is, in that fourth to the end measure, it's basically the same chord. It's an E flat major chord, just moved up an octave. And then you have that A flat and C, then moved up an octave as well. But again, it's practicing those leaps because when you've got that right hand going on top of it, right? So it's this whole, I played that chord wrong, but you get the idea. That as you're doing that, that's where building that up. So you don't stumble. And I tell students this all the time. The 2 parts of a piece of music that most people are going to pay attention to and remember is how you start and how you end. The middle stuff is usually going to get overlooked and forgotten, but you want to begin confidently and end confidently. And of course, overall, yes, you want to stick to the entire thing confidently all the way through. But that's the thing, is that when you're practicing, it's taking it apart. It's working on those sections so that you can be confident in what you're doing. Because confidence is what really makes a solid musician. Yes, knowing musical theory, knowing everything about the notes, what you're supposed to do, all those technique things, yes, those are extremely important. But knowing that you know them and being confident in your ability to do them, those are the things that really make it come across totally musically and beautiful. So those are a few different ideas to practice. If you've got some tips or tools that you have found to be really helpful in your practicing, I'd love to have you drop those down in the comments. And I'd love to have you check out Harmony Music Education on social media, whether that's Facebook or Instagram. And of course, drop a subscribe to the channel and like this video.